Well, today we're going to continue our series looking at the life of King David, a leader after God's heart. And I wanted to find something particularly encouraging to all of you at Holy Trinity Hounslow, because officially this is actually my last Sunday with you as a director of worship. Some of you, or maybe many of you, will know that when I first came in October 2015, invited here by Reverend Stu to be the director of worship for you and help develop the worship. That was only going to be for a couple of years then. And now here we are nearly 6 years later. So I think the time is right for me to move on. But as I wanted to find something encouraging for you from this account from David, King David, and King David's life as a worshipper. He obviously had a totally special relationship with God. He worshipped God in an uninhibited way, as we see in this story. He had a confidence in his worship as well. What I want to look at today is actually there's a lot more in common between King David and our life of worship here at Holy Trinity Hounslow than you might first think there is. Before this occasion in the reading today, where David brings the Ark of the Covenant into his newly established city of Jerusalem, before then the whole of the worship of Israel centered around the tabernacle that Moses built after they came out of Egypt. And the tabernacle was a very strict form of worship, whole priestly structure, lots of regulation, animal sacrifices, accessibility limited. There was an outer court certain people could go to, an inner court so many other people could go to, and then the Holy of Holies where the Ark of the Covenant resided. And nobody was allowed in there apart from the high priest once in a while. So it was a worship, if you like, that was exclusive. Then compare that to what we see in this reading today. The Ark of the Covenant is being paraded into Jerusalem with celebration, music, dancing, joy. It's visible by everybody. And then instead of bringing in the Moses tabernacle and setting it up to put the ark back into it, David sets up a whole different tent. He sets up what's called a tent of meeting. There's no Holy of Holies, there's no outer court, there's no inner court. Once you're in the tent, you see the Ark of the Covenant. It's visible. And instead of the whole situation of animal sacrifices and more and more regulations and strict regimes, David recruited huge numbers of musicians and singers and instigated 24-hour worship and music and praise that went on around the tabernacle. In other words, it was an inclusive model as compared to the exclusive one. And that's what we have at Hounslow. That's what I've seen at Hounslow. I've seen God at work, bringing the different cultural groups together. The vision Stu had, not just different language groups meeting in the same building at different times, but incorporating us all together into a community of worship, still retaining our identity, but having a collective identity, which I think is unique in Hounslow. What was delightful, it wasn't just multicultural, what we do. It's intercultural. We share each other's cultures when we can. You think of those celebrations we have, Easter and Christmas, when there's 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9 different languages in the services, in the worship. different songs, different cultures being celebrated. It is a unique thing, and I want to encourage you. I travel a lot around the globe, helping churches. I don't think I've ever seen anything like what we do at Hounslow, or felt it. Friends of mine who visit from around the globe always say the same thing. There's something special happening here. So I want to encourage you in that. Especially now we're in this season of change. We're in a season of when things are harder. And it made me think of the story of Nehemiah. And he had the people rebuild the walls that had been destroyed. Do you remember the walls of Jerusalem? I don't know if you know the story. He got the people together and he said, we're going to rebuild the walls. And he allocated different bits of walls for different people to build. Different families, different communities, different tradespeople. And they each had to build part of the wall near where they lived. It's quite an amusing story. You wonder what the various bits look like. And different people who weren't used to manual labour and goodness knows what. Some were building slower than others. And you wonder what the wall looked like when it was finished. But halfway through, they hit discouragement. They'd only just joined the various bits of wall that had been built. So the gaps had been filled, but the wall was only half its height. And I think that's where we are at the moment. Don't get discouraged. It was at that point the enemy started coming around and seeing the walls at least being joined up, and they started threatening they were going to come and attack when they weren't expecting it. Even their own people around there who lived nearby were saying, oh, it's all going to go wrong. It's never going to work. It's never going to work. And they got discouraged. But Nehemiah gathered them and he looked at the places where the wall was a bit low. Maybe they hadn't built as fast as the other ones. He said, well, that's right, put warriors behind them. And the rest of you are working, keep your swords by your side. We're going to be ready for attacks all the time. And it's quite amusing. It talks about some of the people who are carrying stuff. They're carrying a weapon in one hand and carrying things in the other hand. They stood up against the enemy and they continued with the work. But it nearly stopped. And I think a huge part of that story that we can learn from with our intercultural community at Hounslow is it wasn't each group building their own wall. Each group was building part of the same wall. That was so important. That was so important for what they were trying to do. And I want to encourage you, don't give up now. Now's the time to press ahead. The people building wall complain. They say, oh, the rubble, there's so much rubble, we can't build the wall, we're struggling. And the rubble is what's left over the old way of doing things. Don't let that distract you. Don't waste time looking at the rubble. Press on to the new things. Keep going. It really might feel like the wall is only half built, but it's halfway up. It's like half empty glass and a half full glass. We've got a half built wall and nearly full wall. So I want to leave you with this encouragement. Don't give up now. Press ahead together. This unique thing God is doing in Hounslow. There's a new season coming. Reverend Sally will come in September and the next chapter will start to be written. So I want to leave you with these words that Paul wrote to the church in Ephesus. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Don't stop now. Keep pressing on. God is doing an amazing thing in Hounslow, and it's been a privilege and an honour to be part of that with you. So I thought we'd finish with a worship song, which seems appropriate. And this is one we've sung together. It's from Psalm 126, or based on Psalm 126, with a bit of the book of Isaiah and a bit of the book of Nehemiah pressed into it as well. And the title is The Lord Has Done Great Things for Us. To remind you, the wall's half up. God is doing a great work. and the Lord brought back the captives to Zion. We were like those in a dream. Our mouths were filled with laughter, and our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. Help us, O Lord, to build up a wall, that your name may be honored again. The Lord has done great things for us. The Lord has done great things for us. The Lord has done great things for us. We are filled with joy. Restore our fortunes, O Lord. Make a way in the desert, we pray, and streams in the wasteland for your people to drink, that they may proclaim your praise. That those who go out weeping, carrying seeds to sow, will return again with songs of joy, carrying the harvest home, oh, and singing, the Lord has done great things for us. The Lord has done great things for us. The Lord has done great things for us. We are filled with joy. Oh, thank you, Lord. The